Stop scrolling for just 15 seconds because what you're about to hear might restore your faith in people. And if stories of quiet courage and unexpected kindness matter to you, subscribe right now so you never miss moments like this. Porque esta historia no es solo noticia, es un recordatorio de humanidad viva. She was building a shelter with broken boards on the edge of a wide, wind-bitten plain. A woman alone beneath a sky that seemed too big for one person, using splinter would scavenge from fences at time and forgotten. Cada tabla de siglo contaba una historia de abandono, and from afar a rancher watched, silent at first, leaning against the rail of his horse corral, seeing her measured movements, the way she lifted each board as if it weighed more than it should, not just in pounds, but in hope. Because this wasn't construction, it was survival. The woman's name was Elena, a seasonal worker who had followed the harvest north and found herself stranded when the work dried up, sin contrato, sin familia cercana, with a child sleeping in the cab of an old truck that barely ran. And when the nights grew colder, she decided that waiting was more dangerous than acting. So she began to build. She hammered with a borrowed tool, hands raw, fingers trembling, mientras el viento cortaba la piel como cuchillas finas, and she told herself that walls, even crooked ones, could hold back fear. The rancher, named Thomas by those who knew him, had lived on that land his entire life, generations of dust and rain in his blood, and he had learned to mind his business, to let the land teach lessons without interference. Pero algo en esa escena lo inquieto. Something about the way she paused often to look toward the horizon, as if measuring time itself. He saw the gaps between boards, the way light passed through like warnings, and he knew those boards would never hold through winter storms. Still, he watched another hour pass, wrestled with the old belief that help given too quickly can sometimes steal dignity. Una creencia dura pero heredada, yet dignity, he realized, also comes from being seen. Elena noticed the horse at a distance but kept working, pride holding her spine straight even as exhaustion bent it. Because asking for help had cost her before, and silence, she believed, was safer. Nails ran low, boards cracked, and when her hammer slipped and blood bloomed on her thumb, she pressed it to her jeans and kept going, whispering a promise to the child sleeping nearby that this shelter would stand. That was the moment Thomas swung into the saddle, decision made without words. Porque hay instance en los que pensa demasiado y es faller, and he rode across the field, the rhythm of hooves steady, visible proof that someone was close in the distance. Elena froze when she heard him approach, fear flickering, then bracing herself for judgment, for questions, for being told to leave. But instead he tipped his hat, introduced himself simply, and said he had some lumber going spare. No speeches, no piti, solo una frase sencilla que abrió una puerta. He rode back and returned with a trailer stacked with straight, solid boards, the kind that smell of pine and possibility, and set them down without ceremony. Elena's eyes filled, though she tried to hide it, thanking him in a voice that cracked, mixing English with Spanish, because gratitude sometimes needs every language available. They worked side by side then, words few but meaningful, hammer strikes sinking like a shared heartbeat, and as the walls rose stronger, straighter, something else was being built, a bridge between strangers. Thomas showed her how to brace the corners, como ser los huecos para que el frío no encuentre camino, and Elena shared bits of her story, how she had crossed counties chasing work, how resilience had become routine, not heroic, just necessary. News travels fast in rural places, and soon neighbors appeared, some with food, others with blankets, because kindness, once visible, is contagious. Y lo que empezó como un acto pequeño se volvió comunidad. By dusk, the shelter stood firm, a modest structure but solid, a place where wind would be muted and fear could rest, and when Thomas left, refusing payment, saying only that land teaches us to look out for each other, Elena watched him ride away with a weight lifted she hadn't named until it was gone. That night her child slept on the floor of the new shelter, breathing slow, and Elena sat awake listening to boards creak gently, not with threat but with promise, understanding that help had arrived not as charity, but as respect. This story spread because it speaks to something essential, because in a world loud with conflict, this was quiet and real, una noticia que no grita pero permanece, reminding us that watching from afar is easy, riding over is harder, and choosing the harder path is how lives change. If this story moved you, let it move your hands and heart, Share it, live it. And before you go, tell us from which part of the country or the world you are watching this video. Desi que ciudad, que pueblo, que rinson del mapa nos acompañas hoy. Because your voice, like that lumber, helps build something stronger.